The ark of God had been lost in battle. You remember the Israelites with Eli under his leadership? You remember those stories in 1 Samuel 6 we looked at 2 years ago, whenever it was? But back then, you remember, instead of treating the ark of God with the holiness and the awe and respect it deserved as the visible representation of God's glory and his presence on earth, they used it as a trinket, a rabbit's foot in the midst of a battle, thinking they can manipulate God and use God to achieve their own purposes, and they lose that battle, don't they? And it's taken, the ark of God is taken from them. The Philistines take it back to their place, and you remember what they do with it? They put it in the temple of Dagon, and what happens? They wake up the next morning, and Dagon is bowed down to God. It's a bad deal when you got to set back up your deity. You know, you got to lift him up and put him back in his rightful place. And they set him up, and then they come back the next morning. Remember what happened? He's bowed down again, only this time he doesn't have hands and head. God has crushed him. And so then they begin to pass the ark of God around to these different cities, and all these plagues break out on the people, and they say, enough, send that thing back. Get it out of here. God's far too holy for us. And they send it back. You remember? They put it on a new cart. And see, these are Gentiles. They don't know. They're just doing the best they can. They're kind of groping in the dark. They put it on a new cart. God's going to be gracious with them because they don't know better. They don't have the word of God. They put it on a new cart. These cows, you remember, lowing, moaning as they went, meaning, remember, this is the Lord of hosts. All creation is his. Those cows were separated from their mama. This is not what cows do. And they went straight. They were groaning, meaning they're going against their natural instincts. God is directing them. And God directs the ark back to the people of God, and they make sacrifice. But you remember what happens then? The men of Beth-Shemesh say, well, I've always wanted to know what's inside that deal. And they do what they shouldn't, and they open it up. And you remember, a bunch of them die. And all of a sudden, they begin to realize the holiness of God, and they say, we're not sure about this whole deal. And they put it over in Abinadab's house in Kiriath Jearim. Here it's called Baal Judah, but it's the same place, Kiriath Jearim, Abinadab's house, and they consecrate Eleazar. These are Kohathites. The Kohathites were given responsibility for caring for the ark of God. They were given the instructions. They put it in Abinadab's house and Eleazar's house. They just kind of sit there just collecting dust. Just been over there. You know how long it's been there? About 50 years. And Ichabod has been written over the nation. The glory of God has departed from this nation. And now as David is ascending to the throne, he says, we're not gonna move forward. And I'm certainly not gonna reign without the presence of God in his rightful place. That's a good king, isn't it?